Welcome everybody to our, is this our third or our fourth?
Third.
It's our third. God, I'm getting ahead of myself. Our third in our series of artist lectures here at LACC College. So, some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Laurel Paley. I'm the new chair of the department. And there are plenty of other people who make this event possible, way more than I have. So, first of all, I want to ask, how many of you are brand new here? This is your first time. So welcome, 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 welcome. So come back. Every 2 weeks we have these lectures. We'd love to see you again and again. And I hope you all are following our Instagram feed or our Facebook, LACC.VAMA. So please follow us. We're constantly posting all kinds of things. We'd love to know how you found out about tonight. How many of you heard about it on our Instagram? Website?
Class.
Facebook. Yes. See? Who needs all this digital stuff? Anyway.
Class.
So your instructors mostly. So, and that brings me to that I really do want to thank the people who have created tonight. So first of all, I want to thank the people behind this event. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for all of your hard work, all of our fabulous faculty. Alex Wiesenfeld, this thing would not happen. And she's our previous chair, she did a rocking job. In absentia, we want to thank Tarina Williams. We want to thank really all the faculty and staff of VAMA. So we have some other faculty members and staff floating around here. I need new glasses, so I'll probably miss a few. You're all doing amazing work, and I thank you all for all the hard work you do on behalf of all of our students. So we do want to thank our Dean V. Lee, who can't be here tonight. This program is funded partially under a Perkins grant through the Career Technical Education, the CTE programs at LACC College. They fund things like our photo labs, like our digital labs, like all of the career-related things. So we're thankful to them. And they're under the able hands of Deans Jeffrey Holmes and Fabi Mora. And we also function under a grant from the LACC College Foundation. Some of you students don't even know that there's this foundation that's pulling for you all and raises money. So hit them up if you're in it. We have annual scholarships you can apply for. How many of you have applied for LACC scholarships? LACC Foundation scholarships? Yes, so hit them up, apply. They have wonderful scholarships. You just have to apply. So now to our speakers. So I'm really excited to have both of our speakers tonight, Erin Desmond and Erin Fowler. These are two young and very exciting artists, and they create really powerful visual and emotional statements that cut very deep. I'm going to get a little emotional because when I was looking at both of their websites, I was so completely blown away by their amazing work. Wow. Crying in front of my students, that's cool. That we're living in an era of hyper-intellectuality in the art world. And both of these amazing artists came out of Yale University at a time of this hyper-intellectuality. And Yale, they got their MFA at Yale, which is the hardest MFA program to get accepted to in the country. And nonetheless, you managed to survive making the kinds of work you make at a place that the academy, that has that level of, that surface level of intellectuality that in my world tends to suppress some of the kind of art I see coming out of both of your studios. So thank you for your courage and the power that you put into your work. I'm going to brag for 1 second, and that is we do have one of our former students at Yale getting his MFA. So we're really, really proud of Fredo Diaz. Some of you may know Fredo, who transferred from our department to UCLA, some other UCLA people in this room. And then he transferred, he got his bachelor's at UCLA in studio art and in sculpture, and now he's at Yale, and he'll be finishing up this year, so we're really proud. And so, you know, he's leaving a long shadow, so people get competitive, start applying for these wonderful schools. So Erin Desmond, You are a Los Angeles-based artist and practitioner, and you work with bodies, nervous systems, time, and space. Erin does boundary-pushing, intimate and revealing photography, installation, and performance artworks, and she folds psychotherapeutic methods into her work, and that invites vulnerability and expansion, ultimately, expansion of the human spirit, I would say. The body has been a subject in art for millennia, and I see Erin approaching it as a subject/object in her work, as a way to open us up to our own guarded physicality, humanity, and maybe our own healing. Erin received her bachelor's also from UCLA in 2010, go Bruins, and her MFA from Yale University in 2014. She has studied at the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute since 2016, and she works as a healing practitioner, and she supports this movement and the resolution of trauma in that work, and I'd say in your artwork as well. I don't see much of a separation. She has exhibited her works nationally and internationally in the US and Europe, including doing performance pieces locally at the Situation Room and at Diane Rosenstein Fine Arts. She's done public art as well. One example is the Billboard Project in Savannah, Georgia. Erin Fowler, our other guest, creates elaborate assemblage paintings and tableau structures that are really dense and layered, using discarded found objects and unconventional materials. She uses cast-off furniture, oil and acrylic paint, well, that too, iridescent CDs, water bottles, LED lights, little videos, American history. His body of work really speaks to an amalgam of bringing together of so many things: American history, pop cultural icons, stories that he tells in his work includes these pop icons, as well as stories of family members, friends that he's lost to acts of violence, incarcerated people, that he sort of brings everything together. His work at the Made, how many of you saw the Made in LA show at the Fowler Museum? Just the faculty, people, get out there. All right, I'll stop. But I would say that the work is ambitious, it's powerful, it's even goofy, it's hilarious, it's painful, it's deep, and it's wonderful. I love the scale, I love the abandon and the raw urgency that I see in your work. You live and work in Harlem, New York, in Los Angeles, and in St. Louis. How do you do it? You received your BFA from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in 2011, and your MFA from Yale University also in 2014. So, Erin was an artist in residence at the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in 2014, and the recipient of a Rima Host Mann Foundation Emerging Artist Grant in 2015. Erin has a long exhibition record, and you've shown in the US and abroad, including at Saatchi Gallery, Columbus College of Art and Design, also Diane Rosenstein Gallery, and the Studio Museum in Harlem. You were recently featured in the UCLA Hammer Museum Made in LA show, I just said that, with these enormous bravura pieces. So I'm so glad that you're here to share your work, but it's so amazing in person. So on behalf of all of you of Los Angeles City College, of the Visual and Media Arts Department, it is an honor and a privilege to introduce both of you to our fabulous students. Welcome to both Erin and Erin. Should I turn up the light?
Okay, turn up the light. Thanks for having us, everyone. So I'm Erin, and a little bit about me, just personally, I'm from LA. I grew up all around California. I'm one of 6 siblings, and I have 60 first cousins, so I grew up with a lot of people and bodies around me who were close to me. I also never went to school until I was 18. I did homeschooling, and then I went to community college at Cypress College, and I transferred to UCLA. So, yeah, then when I was at Yale, I had been making a lot of color, like C prints in the color darkroom at UCLA. So when I transferred, they don't have a color darkroom at Yale. When I went to get my MFA. And so something was lost, something like in the physicality of photography was kind of lost for me. And that's really when I started making performances, especially performances around physical touch. And what I want to show you first is a group of photographs that I made into a book. They're actually all appropriated in my Google search folder from grad school. And while I do that, I wanted to read you a text piece that I wrote called On Touching, just to start things off. One way to touch people is to take their picture. You sometimes have to reach your hand out and position their body in the way that seems fitting for the intention of your image. They sometimes like this, they rarely don't. You sometimes get in the shot with them, covering them slightly or completely. You sometimes don't. Another way to touch people is to bite them. They sometimes enjoy this, they sometimes don't. You sometimes leave bite marks. Another way to touch people is to dance with them. You sometimes know them, you sometimes don't. You sometimes dance for an audience. You sometimes dance for the camera. You sometimes dance just to touch. Another way to touch people is to lay on top of them. It sometimes hurts. It's sometimes cozy. It's sometimes sexual. It's sometimes not. They may feel uncomfortable. That's okay. In fact, it is touching on something important. In order to touch people, you sometimes have to break through boundaries. These sometimes are personal. These sometimes are public. These sometimes are stereotypes. These sometimes are invisible. These sometimes aren't real at all, but you can still break them. One way to break them is with a camera flash. Another way to break them is with your words. Another way to break them is with your body. Another way is to break lobster shells. Sometimes the lobsters are moving. They're sometimes dead. Sometimes the lobsters are stand-ins for people. Sometimes they're nothing but lobsters. One way to touch people is the way lobsters do, always aggressive, but always seeking closeness. Another way to touch people is to eat lobsters with them. You sometimes eat arm to arm and let closeness create sweat. You sometimes eat apart and let distance create longing. You sometimes get a shell on the side of your mouth. That's okay. Nobody eats perfectly. Nobody touches perfectly either, no matter where they are touched. One place to touch people is in a gallery. It sometimes feels unnatural. It rarely doesn't. Another place to touch people is in your bed. It sometimes feels natural. It sometimes doesn't. It sometimes feels like your bed. It sometimes feels like a stage. It sometimes feels like a cheap porn set. It sometimes feels like a dream. It usually feels luxurious on the skin. Another place to touch people is on the skin. This is not a new idea, but it can sometimes be done. Another place to touch people is in your basement. There is sometimes a crowd. There are sometimes just two. There is usually a heaviness that comes with being underground in the darkness. This sometimes affects the way you touch. It sometimes doesn't. Another place to touch people is a Roman bathhouse. You sometimes need help bathing. This is sometimes because you were too old. It is sometimes because you were too young. It is sometimes just because you want help bathing. Another place to touch people is in a public restroom. It is sometimes the men's, it is sometimes the women's. It is sometimes for a spectator, it is sometimes not. It is sometimes for hygienic purposes. It is always for connection. The thing about touching is it's the most simple thing. It's easy to do and it's free. The other thing about touching is it's sometimes not free. You sometimes pay for a pedicure. You sometimes pay for a massage. You sometimes pay for sex. You sometimes pay more than you thought you would. You sometimes pay without money. It's rarely simple. You sometimes long to go back to a little cheek resting on strong, hairy father chest. Falling asleep touching is usually easy. In some cultures, large families sleep together on one grounded mat. In some cultures, baby is strapped to mother and touches her constantly until walking. In other cultures, baby is held away from body in a plastic car seat that attaches to wheels so you don't have to walk and hold baby at the same time. In some cultures, it's normal for a stranger to step onto a bus and sit right beside you, even if you are the only other bus rider. Statistics prove that touching relieves anxiety. Statistics also prove that touching reduces depression. Additionally, statistics prove that touching reduces violence. Furthermore, statistics prove that touching spreads disease. Touch is the first sense to develop in the human embryo. Touch is thus sometimes referred to as the mother of all senses. Yet touch is sometimes more than a sensory system. Keats felt that touch has a memory. Flaubert felt you should never touch your idol. Plato felt that touch makes you a poet. Oprah Winfrey feels that it's about touching your life. Marilyn Monroe felt she didn't always need touch, but only presence. Marina Abramovich feels this too. Presence is one thing you always need in order to touch, but you sometimes need another's touch to feel you are present. You sometimes need another's touch to believe you are alive. A body does not actually need life to be present. You sometimes touch a dead body if you are a doctor. You sometimes touch a dead body if you are an undertaker. You sometimes touch a dead body if you are fighting a war. You sometimes touch a dead body if it's someone you loved. You have never touched a dead body. One day you will. One day you will be a dead body being touched. So, next. So next I wanted to show you a performance that I made. It's called Bene Lave, which means good bath in Latin. And I spread a rumor that I was in the men's restroom. And then as the audience started trickling in, they found 2 women bathing each other in the men's restroom and 2 men bathing each other in the women's restroom. And I was kind of going back and forth between both restrooms. And so yeah, like the body fit perfectly into these long sinks and the water was kind of spilling over. And then people eventually they started kind of performing for themselves in the mirror, so they got out their cell phones, and I made this documentation using footage that I collected afterwards from audience members and time sync, so that you get the same view or different angles of the same moment in the performance. And let's see. Okay, so this is the women's restroom with the 2 men bathing each other. And something happened a few days after this performance that has always really stood out to me and sort of felt like a foreshadowing of like what would happen in my practice. I was at a party and I met one of the performers who had been in the tub, and she was like, you know, this performance, thank you so much for asking me to do it. It was so important. This work you're doing is so important, and I don't know what it's going to lead to, but like just keep doing it. So she was really encouraging. It was so nice. I was like, oh, cool. Like, thanks. It's great. And later, before I was going to go home, I had to use the restroom. So I went into the public restroom, and I saw someone on the ground in one of the stalls. And so I look inside, and it's the same woman. She's a very small woman, so I don't think it took much to get her a little, inebriated. So she was actually kind of passed out over the toilet, and her hair was like in the toilet. She'd been like throwing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, is she okay? So I like take her over to the sink, and I start like washing her throw up out of her hair. It was kind of gross, and then I get the soap and I start like lathering, and all of a sudden it hit me that I was re-performing. I was re-performing my performance, only it was real this time, and this joy just swept over me, and I all of a sudden her puke wasn't gross anymore. I felt like her mother or something, and I just washed her up, and then I helped her find her friends. And I didn't quite know what that meant at the moment, but I knew that it was significant. And later, kind of moving into real life or real like healing modalities would kind of like manifest. Next, this is, so at Yale we didn't have studios, so my bedroom was my studio, and so I did a series where I invited people into my bed to get the picture taken, and they could do anything they wanted or invite anybody who they wanted, so let's see what that was. To my neighbors. And then this is a series I did of people lying on top of each other. It's called Sympathies. So I would invite people to lie on top of each other. Sometimes they were friends, or sometimes they were strangers, or sometimes they were lovers. But the same thing would always happen. At first they'd be super awkward and uncomfortable, and then they'd kind of reach this place where they'd relax and be, actually, this is really comfortable. And then we'd always get the shot after that happened. Install shot. This is another performance. I just wanted to show you this one. I only have a couple quick clips, but I had a group of performers trained in hand massage by a massage therapist, and then we, like together with a live opera singer, we kind of took siege on an audience, and the opera was kind of like setting the tone, and then we offered people hand massages. Or we hardly offered them, to be honest. It was like, yeah, like the whole process was like kind of slow. A lot of my performances, like, or my work in general, is kind of slow and not really very shocking, but more like subtly pushing internal boundaries so that people really, you know, they'll agree to whatever's going on, and then they slowly realize that something is like being pushed in a very deep place inside of themselves. Okay, so after grad school, I came back to LA, and I was making work for like a year or so, and it was pretty difficult. That program's a little traumatic, if you guys know anything about it. And one day I was walking on the sidewalk, and I got run over by a car. It just kind of like came up on the sidewalk and hit me and ran me. So I went under the car in between the wheels, and she was dragging me along the pavement. And I like 100% thought that my life was over, and had to like wordlessly lift up my spirit. And then she finally backed up, and I was pretty much shocked to find that I was still alive and in one piece. And my mindset shifted dramatically after that. Like it was like gratitude hit me, and I knew right away that there was something else I had to do in addition to making physical art. And what I realized is that I need to help people heal from trauma. So that's kind of happening in a couple of ways. My sister and I have a more long-term project that's a shelter for young women who are homeless. But secondly, I started studying something called somatic experiencing, which is a type of trauma healing therapy. So I'm in like a program, I'm about to finish a program, 3-year program in somatic experiencing, but it uses the senses to understand what's happening in the nervous system, and then to repattern the nervous system and discharge stored self-protective responses, so our fight or flight responses, that are stored during trauma and that come up in other parts of life when not actually occurring. So I started to realize that basically understanding the nervous system informed my work in this whole new way, and I started to realize what art could be, what was happening, how things were actually, how the nervous system was functioning in my prior work, and how art could essentially be healing. Because in trauma healing, a renegotiation has to happen, and in art, I also want a renegotiation to happen, and so therefore, art in and of itself can be healing, as well as I'm doing sessions with people one-on-one, but as a new goal for my art, I want it to be healing as well. So this next series is called Surfacing, and I've been working on it kind of since that time. But I invite people to hold their bodies in underneath the water in fetal position for as long as they can, and it's kind of about rebirth and crossing thresholds, and definitely about sensations and memories and impulses surfacing, which oftentimes needs to happen to heal. And something really interesting, in my third year of studying the nervous system, I've been learning about the dorsal vagal part of the nervous system, which is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's basically our conservation state. And I've been learning about kind of immobility postures. So when we're in a deep sleep, we can be in our conservation state, or when we're kind of in shock and we've had extreme trauma and we need to go into a more safe place, that could be a conservation state. So, but the posture of this conservation state is this, and which is also can be the posture of shame or deep rest. And so it's actually this really, well, these aren't that posture, but I'm working on some body parts as well, other body parts. So it turns out that this posture of shame or posture of immobility is often looked at as this really negative thing, but it's actually an essential movement or an essential emotion or part of our systems or part of our nervous system that we need to move through. So it's when we're, it's kind of all about movement and allowing constriction and expansion, constriction or contraction and expansion to be happening constantly. And when we inhibit the contraction or the collapse, we're walking around inhibiting something, and it's really tense because we're not allowing ourselves to move through. So first I learned about this as the posture of shame, and I was like, whoa, I don't think my images are about shame. But then I'm actually, they are to a certain degree. It's about being able to move through the difficult postures and emotions. So these are what their final form is going to be. So they're going to be very large scale. They're actually inspired by whales surfacing for oxygen, so I want them to be almost whale size, and people to be able to have a really kind of physical bodily experience with them as viewers. This is another version of the syntheses series that I was working on, and I'm making this frame out of faux leather, wood, and batting, so having a really sculptural and physical experience with the print, but then also being drawn into the image and something's happening. They're two bodies figuring out when one stops and another starts, and then also skin color, just allowing skin color to be a subject in this one as well, part of the conversation. This is a video I made, kind of with the same structure. It's called On Body, and speaking of movement, it's kind of like a movement from expansion to contraction to expansion, and then more movement. And it's actually a vertical video. Project I'm going to show you. Again, kind of realizing, like I started to realize how everything really goes back to movement in terms of nervous system health. Like we want to be moving back and forth between different fluidly, like between different parts of the nervous system, different emotional states, and when we get stuck, that's trauma. Similarly, with like physical health, and like you can hardly like address emotional health without addressing physical health, and vice versa, because they really are one and the same in so many ways. So physical health is so much about the movement of the circulatory system, lymphatic system, and digestive system. So blood being moved around the body, moving oxygen to the blood. Lymphatic system is immune cells and white blood cells being moved so the body can heal itself, and digestive system, like proper digestion and elimination, which includes all of the organs. So I found myself in this position where I needed to help someone heal physically, and we kind of embarked upon this 30-day it's called like an incurables program, where we did a series of holistic treatments and a really, really strict diet with juicing. And we did treatments like contrast hydrotherapy, hot cold water therapy, enemas, cold sheet treatments, which is a like very specific hot cold bath treatment, poultices on the skin, so herbs that like pull from the skin. So this person is very dear to me. It's actually his name's Corey. He's actually Erin's brother. And so these pictures are, some of them are more metaphorical for some of the things that he was going through, and others are actual, like the physical process of the healing work that we were doing. This is a big pile of all of the peelings from the vegetables that we were juicing. And
Day two, y'all. Day two.
this is just a little piece where he shares.
Bigger, this size, man.
Oh yeah, I should say, so he was suffering from like an autoimmune issue where he would have, he had a lot of boils and cysts on his body, and a lot of like pain and stiffness and fatigue, and the medications that the doctors were giving him weren't working. So this is him.
Day two, y'all. Day two. It's bigger, the book was this size, man. The last month and a half, and it was so fragile, sensitive, I couldn't even sleep on the front side. I put some aloe vera for the first time on this early. And today, as I got out the shower, I did a hot cold, some hot water to cold. Got out, from the bush, and now I feel good. I know it might sound weird, but I can actually see my own heartbeat, so check me out, man.
Finally, this was like a very specific bath treatment that we did, and like once again in the middle of this it hit me that I was like re-performing the performance, but it was, again, it wasn't like just a representation, it was like the real purpose. The main representation is purpose, but there was something bigger going on. Yeah, so I'm still kind of like figuring out how the healing work like works directly into my art practice. I wrote a play recently that I'm hoping to perform in LA soon, and thinking about how like relational work, like interfacing with the public, can kind of bring healing into like a performative public sphere. So I'm starting a performance troupe called the Cardiographs, and we're gonna meet weekly and do performances on a regular basis. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. How's time?
It's 6:50, so maybe
Uh-oh.
maybe
So-
Erin next.
If we do have like 2 minutes.
Sure, yeah.
So I was wondering if you guys wanted to do just a really quick activity that you'll need a partner for in this space.
Yeah.
You know what?
Partner.
Oh, partner, I thought you said
Yeah,
printer.
just someone to sit next to in the space. What we're gonna do is just a really like simple touching exercise, but can be very powerful. So you just are really gonna touch someone's shoulder or anywhere that you agree that you want to be touched. But so you decide who's gonna be the receiver and who's gonna be the person who touches, basically the giver. And we'll just have one person touch a shoulder preferably, or maybe an arm preferably being able to touch the skin, but okay, if it's just right over the clothes. And I just want to invite everyone to track very closely what you are feeling underneath your hand and the other person, like heart rate, pulse, warmth, coldness, any movement, is there shaking, is there not, when do you feel shifts, like from, maybe some kind of contraction to expansion or other way around. And then also notice what you feel in your own body while you're doing it. And then the person who's receiving, just simply notice what you feel in your body, kind of try to sense and notice what sensations are coming up anywhere in your body. So, I'm going to set my alarm. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll go up the road.
Would you like to be my person? Okay, so do you want to touch me or do you want me to touch you? I don't know. I can touch you. You want to touch your head? Okay, sure.
And I'll be there. All right. So deciding.
I'm wearing a lot of clothing, so it might be hard to get up to the shoulder. So somewhere in my arm.
And just want to invite no talking, so everyone, can just deeply sense and notice sensations, movement, temperature.
Hey guys, I'm Erin. I also went to community college actually. Just a little fun fact about me, and it was probably like the best thing for me. So you guys are in an awesome place. I'm gonna start this. I always start presentations off with like my little cousin. His name's Darion. He passed away when I was in the 7th grade. And the reason why I started this off with him, he was like, I feel like when he passed away, it was like my entry into knowing that I'm an artist, I guess. When he passed away, I was in the 7th grade and I was in like the drawing class. And he passed away from a car accident in St. Louis. That's where I'm from St. Louis. And it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. It's like we were really, really close, more like brothers than cousins. And so when he passed away, it was just like somebody taking my life, kind of. So like I was in 7th grade and I had this class, like a regular drawing class, and I had this assignment to do a self-portrait. And instead of doing a self-portrait, I ended up drawing him on like line paper. I wish I still had that drawing to show you guys. But I turned it into my teacher, Mr. Guilfoyle, and he basically, he looked at it and he's like, who is this person and what happened, And I guess he felt what I was feeling from the drawing. And that experience kind of made me like I'll never forget it, like made me like get through that experience. Just drawing it made me get through it. It was like a way for me to like kind of deal with like my trauma. And like, I remember just like laughing at the good times and like, you know, really hurt about the bad times and him gone, but it like helped me get through that experience completely. So I always like keep that with myself as like a reminder of why I do what I do, you know? And so I'm just gonna start off there. And I'm trying to get through this really, cause I have like a million slides, so I'm gonna try to like, you know, if you have questions or anything, you probably can raise your hand or something, or we'll wait till the end, but I'm gonna try to like, say as much as I can while kind of skimming through the images. So I'll start off a little bit after when I graduated from community college. I started making these series of shooting targets. I went to undergrad in this place called Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and that's in Philadelphia. So when I first got there, it was like around my first semester, I got a call that my cousin Shorty was shot in the head, and he survived, you know, but it just freaked me out. And then a little bit later after that, I got a call that another friend of mine was shot, you know, so I started making these series of shooting targets. So this is Shorty, where I just like collage newspaper, painted them with like oil as realistic and rendered as I can. And then I poured this black material called Galkid. It's like a oil medium that you mix with oil paint. And I just take them out and poured it on top of them. And then I took them to the gun range after they were dry, and I kind of like shot them where they were shot, you know? So this is Shorty. And this is about 3 foot by 4 foot. And this is Travis. And then from all those like bullet shell casings, I just started collecting the shells, and I made this like sandbox, because it kind of reminded me of like how like a game kind of, you know, happens so often in these shootings. So I like started collecting and made like this sandbox shape, and you know, allow people to kind of like play with the bullet shells. And I ended up putting this like white figurine in the middle of it, and I put like "Where's Whitey?" You know, that's the title of this. It's just like a figurine in the middle of it if you found it. Then I went to this place called Norfolk, which was like a residency you can get into from your junior year to your senior year, and they kind of take people from all different schools all over this country. It's called Norfolk, and Yale sponsors it, you know. So I met this guy, his name's Jake Berto. He's actually no longer with us either, but he was like a huge mentor to me. And he completely shifted the way that I make paintings, you know, completely. Like he walked in on a performance I was doing of me turning like a tow rope, like a jump rope, you know, so it was this huge rope that was like 30 foot, and we're just like turning it kind of like jump rope, and it was making this like violent, loud noise. So he like walked in, it's the first day he met me, he was like, man, what the F was that, you know? Like, he's like, that's the most powerful thing I've ever seen. He's like, I really want to see your work, you know? So he came into my studio, and he was just like, man, what? Like, I thought your paintings would be a lot different. He feels like I was like illustrating instead of like expressing what I expressed, you know, what I felt. So he like challenged me to make a painting that, you know, I ended up making this painting, but he challenged me to make a painting of like what I feel more so than like a illustration of it, you know? So I started making this painting. I was already making this painting of these kids fighting and jumping somebody, and it was kind of like just depicting an image, like kind of like a Google stock image kind of. And he challenged me to like, he was like, what does that really make you feel? And I didn't know what he meant, and I was just like, what do you mean, whatever. So it's like, I dare for you to come up with like a sentence or a phrase or something to express how you really feel. And he didn't know what that was, I didn't know what that was, so it took me a little while, and I came up with this because it's like, to me, the most like ignorant word, and like really a depiction of ignorance, you know? So I like taped it out and basically beat the mess out of this painting with like boxing gloves. I just brought like buckets of paint and just like spit on it, stepped on it, kicked it, and then peeled the tape off of that word, and it just revealed. So you see like the underpainting underneath, and then this painting ended up being that. So then coming back from school, like my last semester, I started to put what I learned from this residency of like this action painting into like the images I was already trying to make, you know? And I came up with this style of painting that was kind of like expressionism, but I still love to make images, you know? So these are like group paintings. I was taking like group pictures of like people back home and making these paintings from it. So this is like this, another group, and these are about 6 foot by 4 foot. so not super huge. Yeah, then right after I graduated, I went to Berlin, and I continued that series. So this is like another couple paintings from that series. They're just like called group paintings. And they're just made out of like a bunch of different paints and collage paper and stuff like that. There's another one. I'm starting to get like a little physical, as you can see. Then, so when I graduated and I ended up getting into Yale for grad school in the painting department. And I don't know, like Erin said before, it was like very traumatizing. Like this space was kind of like crazy because it was the first time I've been in a place where you put up work and they like basically try their best to rip you apart and criticize you. And criticize, you know? And so it's just like very hard to make work in a place of when you're not surrounded by love, because usually my motivation to make it is love, you know? So when I'm in a place of like very criticality and all this stuff around you, it's very just hard, you know? So I remember my first semester, after my first semester, first semester, I like went back home, try to brainstorm all the stuff that I was told and learned, whatever the case might be. I was still interested in like telling stories, you know, and like speaking what I've been through. But I knew I wanted to find like another way of speaking it instead of like direct images from my world as is, you know. So like I remember like hearing crazy stories like somebody robbing Foot Locker at like stealing a bunch of tennis shoes back home or doing something crazy, you know. So like when I got bad, I started getting into like this mode of like history thing. Like I was just trying to figure out like what's a metaphor for what I feel in this place. So I felt like a pirate, you know. I felt like I was in this Ivy League world that I didn't really belong in, or like felt like I did, you know. And I'm trying to navigate it with the tools that I got, you know. So I empathized with just being a pirate. So I started making these pirate paintings. And this is an installation I did at one of my critiques. So this is like a bunch of pirates robbing Foot Locker. It's like basically like boats Foot Locker, and I like, you know, just basically them whooping like the Foot Locker employees, you know. And I don't know, it felt really fun to make and take myself out of, you know, of like just the regular but still telling the same story. This is like one of my first fights that I ever had in my life. So this is like me fighting another person with like my friends and family watching. And this is like all the, basically like people of color in the painting department. This is like us taking over, you know? Like maybe people walk the plank. And this call started from the bottom, now we're here. And it's just like a silver portrait of me as like the Johnny Depp pirate. I just like taking like the goofiest pirate images off of Google and making them to myself. This is like my mom stabbing my stepdad. Tough love. This is a friend of mine that actually got out of jail and like robbed my cousin, which is weird, but so I made a painting about it. This is a painting of, I had a crush on this girl back in school when I was at Yale, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I made this painting. So this is like her and me as like a creepy, like a dinosaur creeping up the wall. This is like a dinosaur painting of my little cousin catching his dad do drugs. And it's called, Yeah, Daddy, Why You Killing Yourself? And the dinosaurs for me was like, I started making these dinosaur paintings as a way or a metaphor for people that are like just stuck, you know? So I feel like if you're not moving, you're growing, you're not, you know, you're dying in a way. So it's just like me dealing with situations back home and like using that dinosaur metaphor as like a way of stuckness, you know? And yeah, there's another piece of like, I don't know, I was really in love with Ralph Lauren polo. So this is like me and my good friends like playing polo, you know? And yeah, it's me cut out of it. It's just like polo was. And it's like this medallions I started making, which is like chains you wear around your neck, you know? So it's like these big medallions that just represents like love to me, you know, because it goes over your heart. So I started making these medallions or these chains that are like huge and they kind of hang in the space. So this is a part of that. This is me as like a merman. This is a friend of mine, Lauren Halsey, that I made a medallion that's her as a pharaoh. 'cause her world that she creates is very like Egyptian and futuristic. So this is like a, yeah, and it comes from like Nas, this chain. If you guys know Nas, the rapper, it's like the pharaoh that he makes. So I just kind of took that chain and made it into Lauren. And this is like it in space. So it's like really huge. And this is like her in my studio, just like right in front of me. This is my cousin, my brother. His name's the one that actually Erin was showing earlier. This is him as like a lion. And because he's like, I don't know, just really, he's that. And this is like my studio. I go back and forth usually, so I'm always working in different spaces. So I was like based in Harlem and then working in LA and then St. Louis. So this was like an install shot of like my studio in New York, just to kind of show you how it worked. And so this piece right here is like the start of the series. I started making a pilgrim. So like learning from that pioneer, that pirate series, you know, like basically learning that, you know, using metaphors to tell stories was like a good solution for me and also like a good way to learn. So I started, I graduated from school, didn't really know what I was going to do because I felt like I didn't really relate or empathize. Like I didn't relate to the world that I came from before I was in school. And I definitely didn't relate to this like art world that I was getting myself into when I graduated. So I felt myself kind of just lost. You know, so I read this book, it's called If You See Buddha on the Road, Kill Him. And it's like this book about this like psychoanalysis, like this therapist talking about his patients. So it's like a psychiatrist kind of dealing with like patients and like writing them as like their pilgrims, you know? So it's just like them being on their pilgrimage. So I read that and I empathized like his patients. I was going a little crazy, didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. So I like started just make paintings about it so I can deal with life. Because that's kind of how I deal with life, is just like make about it directly because I don't know how to live it outside of that. So this is me first getting to New York, just like super lost, trying to like find my way. Yeah. And then this is me after this residency I did after school called Scout Weekend. It's in Maine, and it's like a summer residency for like 3 months, and it brings all these artists around the world to basically just make art. They take care of like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, give you like space to live, like a space to work, all the tools you need, you know? So it's like super inspiring to me, and just like enough time for me to like, the love that I wasn't getting at Yale, and how that kind of messed me up, it brought me to this, back to the world of like falling back in love with art, you know? So these are like a group of friends of mine, as pilgrims, pilgrims. And then this is another piece that's like me guiding my family out of St. Louis, like taking my family out of like the craziness of St. Louis into like paradise. And it's made out of like, I don't know, like doors and like a bunch of found wood, and I don't know, I like usually make these surfaces that are kind of like using the materials around me, you know? So I found like these doors in Harlem. Actually I found these doors in St. Louis. It's like right after I graduated, I moved to my mom's basement and like started making these doors out of like Craigslist free stuff and whatever I can find. And it's another piece of my brother praying over the table. My family. I know this is a little blurry, but this is a piece of me coming home to my mom. Just the stuff that I was kind of dealing with at the time as pilgrims. And this is a piece of like this gallerist that was like, I don't know, I had a weird experience with, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I made this painting about it. So I made it like a giant trying to pull me and a good friend of mine into this like new world that I want to be in. And it's called Don't Let the Game Play You, or Play the Game, Don't Let the Game Play You. And it's just me kind of dealing with this art world, you know, and trying to navigate my way through it. Sorry about the blurriness. This piece is a money bag that I made, and it's like the start of a series that I started working on, which is just like, I made these money bags of like experiences or things that are really like rich to me. So I remember I go to church on Sundays, and I remember going to this church in Harlem, and I heard the pastor say like, I don't deserve it, but he keeps blessing me. And that really stuck to me because like I'm such a mess. You know, and I don't see how some of this stuff happens sometimes in my life. So I felt like very connected to that saying. So I went to the studio immediately and made this like money bag out of like some furniture and like whatever I could find, but it reminded me of like, that's my true wealth, not really money itself, but like these experiences and the love is like my type of love. So I started making that. And this is another chain I made of a cousin of mine. He was incarcerated. So this is from like the death row chain, like the chain like Tupac, them wore back in the day. And I basically like flipped that and made it free easy, just to kind of like speak this into existence. So when he was incarcerated, like I made this chain to just like speak that energy into the universe. And I feel like I believe that you can speak things into existence and manifest your reality, you know? So this is me kind of just like putting it out there. And shortly after he actually got out, which was awesome. This is another pilgrim painting with a bunch of friends of mine. And we're just kind of like chilling on the beach. This is a piece, the one on the left is me kind of dealing with my like stuff, you know? So it's like me climbing this rock of like just my, you know, all my like flaws and like the bad things about me, just kind of like dealing with self, you know? So it's me kind of climbing up there and to the cross. And like my mentor's in the background on the left, that's clouds kind of watching over me. And it's called Thank You God. And this piece is it's another pilgrim piece that I made that I like basically had this workshop at the Studio Museum. They asked me to come by. So I wanted to like make an interactive piece with them. So I brought all these like card tables and this printout of like the last, like this first like dinner, pilgrimage dinner. And I took it to this drawing class and I had the kids kind of like, or like, it was like kids, adults, a little bit of everybody, but I basically made this like coloring book page and they all like picked a face, a figure, and like painted on it, and then I brought it to my studio to finish it. So yeah, it's just like, and I call it black flags, that end up turning into like the Studio Museum flag. This is just a piece of me having fun in Harlem with a bunch of friends. It's like a party. And this is a piece of my mom and me. So just like a huge portrait of my mom, and she's everything to me, that's my rock, you know? So this is just her kind of journey. That's this picture of my studio in Inglewood. When I was here like 2 years ago, it was like the backyard of it. It was kind of like a mess. And this is a piece of mine too, kind of dealing, like I said, I deal with everything I go through, I deal with. So this is me like, it was a gallery that was interested in me, and I found myself in a situation with that. So I had to find the wealth in this, you know? So this is like all my family, kind of the people that helped me get through it, even Erin included, but like all these like dollar bills of them kind of flying through as I'm like shaking a hand and make a deal, you know? And it's called Don't Let It Fool You, Let It Fool You. That's like a detail of that. And then this is a piece, it's called El Camino. And it's basically where I traced my car. I had like a 79 El Camino. So I like traced it with like, put these tables against the car and like traced it. So I had to cut out. And then I found a bunch of like, you know, you see car parts on the road from accidents and stuff like that. So I just basically collected all these like car parts, you know. And then me and Erin actually, we took a road trip through California after I finished the show. So I don't know, it's like my first time really seeing California. So it's like super magical, and Erin took all these like pictures. So I collaged a bunch of the pictures from the trip on the back, and put Erin in the sunroof, you know, with like all her like long blonde hair, and it made like a wagon. So it's like El Camino wagon. You know, I turned into like the Pioneer wagon. I'm in a Pilgrim wagon / like El Camino. And then this is a piece of one of my cousins that's like, he's like into music right now, and I'm super proud of him because he's like on his verge of like being caught up in the streets or, you know, going some other route. And I'm just proud of him. He told me like one time I saw him, I just visited back home, and he was just like, yo, Erin, I'm just like you, man. I'm in the studio every day, you know what I mean? And just like I'm making my music, which I just felt really great about. So I wanted to make this piece to kind of like empower him. You know, and like, I don't know, also just like felt really great that he did that, you know? So I made this piece, and I got like his lyrics of one of his songs, and he wearing this like medallion of his mom. He usually keeps this like angel around his neck, so I made it his mother. Just like that's a piece. And this is just me I'll just show you a snippet of like my process kind of, it's kind of weird. But like, I was like, basically went to Inglewood to make, I was making this piece, and I was in Inglewood collecting all the Christmas trees people throw away, you know? And so this is me like trimming the Christmas trees for this piece that I was making at the time. So yeah, it's kind of like how boring and weird my process is.
Erin, if you click, it says present, like upper right corner.
Okay.
Other side, yeah. Oh, no.
Computer stupid.
Next to the blue bat, there's a blue square, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically those Christmas trees went into this piece. So you see all like the stalks or whatever. And this is a good friend of mine, her name is Lex Brown. She did this performance where it was like in this like dark space with like this cube or something. And she did this performance of her rendition of Little Red Riding Hood. So it was kind of like super powerful and touching to me. So I wanted to like make about it. So this is her as Little Red Riding Hood, and she entered the space with like this rental truck that she had. So there's like this like light that beamed in. I thought it was super cool. And I know at the time she was in grad school too, so she's also dealing with like what I was dealing with in grad school. So this is like her beating up this wolf that is Yale and overcoming that. And this is her doing her hair to the piece, or like showing me how to twist hair. This is a piece of my little brother. He visited me from St. Louis to LA, and he was like assisting me all summer. So this is him like his head buried in the sand because he like hit the beach for the first time and was like in love. Just like him. And this is an image of like me as a pioneer kid, and it's just like me and Erin getting married. So it's like I like trying to manifest that, I guess. Maybe a way of manifesting that. And it's funny, I like started making this when we first got together. It's kind of like I don't know, like scared a little bit or what, but you know, just made that. And this is a piece of my grandmother that passed away. Her name is Janae. So I painted this on like a hot tub cover that I found, and like some text from like one of my little cousins that posted after she passed away, just a lot about her. And around her neck is pearls, and they're made out of like emoji, like bouncy balls, whatever. And I collaged like all of her grandkids and kids on those pearls. So it's just like something to deal with me losing my grandmother. This is a bed piece of, so randomly, this little girl that, well, I got a call like 3 years ago that a kid might be mine out of nowhere from an ex-girlfriend, which is crazy. And it kind of freaked me out because I haven't seen this girl in like 6 years. So she said, well, her kid might be mine. So I went through this whole process of the last few years, just trying to figure out if she's mine or not, you know? So in that process, I was trying to figure out, damn, if I'm a dad, I don't know what a dad is like, you know, I've never been a dad, you know, and like, what would I do if I'm a father, you know? So started just like making work of her via like getting to know her through like Facebook images and stuff like that. So this is her reading to her little brother. And then I have this weird video. Now, this will make sense in a minute, but I'll show you this video. So this is like another process video in my studio, working on one of the paintings of the girl Logan. It gets worse. So yeah, it gets worse. You guys get the gist though. And okay. So I end up making this, it turned into this piece, right? So this is a piece of me walking her out of St. Louis. So I was like, I don't know, I'm like, if I'm a father, so one thing I want to do is kind of be in her life, but also I know, coming from where I'm from, like St. Louis is kind of a hard place to grow up. So it's like something that I wanted to like encourage her to like, you know, just see other places. So this is me as like a donkey, which I'll try to get this story really quick. In the process of figuring out if she's my daughter, right, I was seeing a lot of pictures of her winning like spelling bees and like contests and stuff. And every time I see pictures of her, it's like this like donkey character in the back, like just as a like a what do you call it, like a mascot kind of, you know. So it's like this like donkey mascot always in there. So I'm like, dang, how would I get to know her? Maybe if I'm like this donkey, since this good stuff come out of that, maybe it'd be a good way to get to know her, into her life, you know. So I started making myself as a donkey figure. I know it's weird, but I kind of just went with it, you know. So yeah, that's that piece. Like the Minions. The Minions, like, she said she liked Minions, so. And I watched Minions and I realized how ridiculous that was. You know, if you guys ever seen it, it's really like the most ridiculous cartoon for kids. So I took my aggression out on that. This is a chain. It comes from like Slick Rick's chain medallion, but this is a medallion of like my little sister. She's a Libra, so she's always up and down. So I made her like a scale. And she really loves purses, so I like made her body out of a bunch of found purses and bought purses. So that's like one side of her, and that's the other side of her. This another medallion called Pre Problems, which is like a music group back home in St. Louis that I really like. That's the back of that chain. This is Nefertiti. This is Erin Desmond chain. That's the front and back of that. And it's made out of this like, we used to go to this like taco spot in Venice. And one day they were like throwing out all their like stools and stuff, which I was excited about. So this is a piece of like, basically me and Erin, we found all these like theater chairs on Craigslist free, which is like a great source for everything. And it's like, I don't know, it's like 100 theater chairs that I like basically pulled apart and took the seats out of, right? And I made this like, basically this huge surface off these chairs. And basically this piece started when I lost a cousin of mine, which is on the top left. His name's Lil Mike. So I lost him, and previous to that I lost like a couple friends as well, like I grew up with, back home in St. Louis, and all due to like just like gun violence and just like the BS. So I started making this painting as a way to like memorialize them in a way. So I like basically I wrote the text to, you guys seen the Three Problems chain that we just passed away? Him and my little cousin, and they made this song. And it's about like people that they lost. Text to the song on the painting, just like each pillow was a part of the text. And then I took, like my cousin was the last person, so I took him and I just painted him on that. And people that I've lost, basically that are close to me, that were friends growing up. So these are a bunch of people that I've lost. And I basically said like every time I lose a person, which hopefully it doesn't happen more, that I will paint a face on each pillow. You know, like hopefully it doesn't fill up or anything like that. But since then I've already lost like 3 more people. So this thing already doesn't look the same. And it's just like a continuation project that I probably would never sell or show, but just like something that's for kind of myself dealing with that, you know? So this is just like a piece coming from that. Then on the brighter side, I'm working on these series of pioneer paintings, which is me basically being mindful that I can manifest my reality and I can do whatever it is I want to do or I dream to do. And so I started making these pieces off of like these pioneer paintings of things that I kind of want in my life. So I'm like, all right, this is where I'm at in life, what needs to happen in life. So this is a piece of me coming home, kind of freeing my mom from working a job, you know? So this is called Mom, You Deserve It. And it's like me on the right still is this donkey character, and my mom on the left kind of getting ready to work. And I'm like crossing out her like uniform saying, nope, not today. So this is like a piece from that. And then this year, I've done like a series of shows, and with the work that I showed you, you know, so this is kind of like some installation shots of like what this stuff looks like in the world. So, you know, to the right is a picture of Logan, that's like the Little Mermaid, and I found this like gas station sign, shell sign, so she's like painted on top of that. It's like a shell. And then that piece that I showed you of like Lex Brown is kind of in this window, and this is in New York at this museum called the Museum. And I filled the space with mirrors and made videos of like the process underneath. So it's like just like an installation in a window, street window. And yeah, it's a detail of Logan, who we're all talking about. This is a performance I did with Lex Brown also. So the night of the opening, the opening of that window show you guys seen, I wanted to like use this opportunity to like make a platform for my friend that inspired me to make that piece. So we collaborated, took us 2 weeks to make this piece about basically finding humans, you know, where like we play as Lexa and like trying to find humanity again, you know. So we made this, and I'll show you just like little excerpts of the performance.
Are there any people in here? I don't even know what a person looks like.
Alexa, they got arms, you know, these things.
Yeah.
They got like legs, you know, these legs to wiggle with, you know. They got them feet, you know. And I think they got like a head, all these things, you know, these things, you know. And they got eyeballs.
So they look like us.
But they ain't us.
Wait, who are we?
Alexa, remember? Did you forget?
Oh, I remember.
So this is like, it's a lot more to it, but it's like a 30-minute performance, 30 minutes or so performance that kind of, I don't know, it turned into a bunch of things. Like we had like, each of us had like a song that we wrote, so we performed the song as well, and like, it was just different types of things in the space. This is another piece that I made for this installation I did, where I basically covered the space with sand. And this is like me and my friends going to meditation, something I'm trying to speak into existence as well. And it's painted on a bunch of like school desks that I found here in Inglewood. So I just put all these desks together and they had all these chairs as well, and it was just like kind of something that kind of goes off the wall. So that's kind of what it looks like in the space. And Ezekiel is like my assistant / friend. We collaborated on this video. So we made this, I basically recorded my family back home meditating. We had this like, basically we played pin and tail on the donkey. So I was like this big donkey and we're all part of the donkey. And I made each one like a tail to make, you know, and we put paint on it and they all kind of spin around. We like meditated for 10 minutes first. They spin around for like 30 seconds and then we played this like game of pin and tail on the donkey on the paint. So it's like some of the video shots from that, kind of like cut up and sliced up. So it's like my dad on the left and my cousin on the right. It's just like part of us. Yeah, like the process of playing pin and tail on the donkey. So this video was in like the painting itself. It was like I'll go back to it real quick. So this video was inserted in this like, this is one of my mentors like guiding us. He guided us and he wanted to talk to me about meditation. So this like little thing that he's holding is a canvas, but it was holding that video. You know, so you can see that video and watch this video in the painting itself. And then this is also part of that installation. It's just like a painting I made of me. I found these like cubicles, so I painted on these cubicles, me meditating over my city, which is St. Louis. So I just like painted the city on top, underneath, and then me kind of like meditating on top of that. And that's just what it looks like installed. And then there's another installation I did this year. Basically, it was part of like that first spatial show was called Donkey Days, and then this is the second part of that show, which is called Donkey Nights. And it's just like, yeah, a bunch of that work that I showed you guys in that space. And it's another piece of like me teaching that little girl, Logan, how to like draw. So it's just like me and her drawing. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. I also wanted to share this project with Erin. We just went to Burning Man this year. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it's like a festival in Nevada. Really wild. This is our first time going in general. And we made this huge piece. It was like, it's called Listen. And it's this 27-foot art that you can walk inside. So it's like 27 foot by like maybe 10 to 12 foot. And basically it's covered and made out of speakers. And you can walk inside and it's like a space where you can hear your heartbeat through the speakers. So I'll show you a little bit about that. I don't know if Erin wants to say a little bit about that. And then we'll open up for questions if anybody has questions. So this is like what it looked like from a drone, like just like this drone image, so you see it from above. And like I said, it's like 27 foot long, so it's really, really big, you know, and it's like the speakers you see. And there's like a side shot. And this process is like nuts, like, and, I mean, we're collecting speakers to like the day that we left, you know, so I mean, probably like 700 to 1,000, yeah, everywhere we can find. Yeah, I told them to like, it's a human heart, you guys. And this is like the other side of it. And the entrance is like the space you can walk inside. So if you like a glimpse of the space. Yeah, that's the inside of the space, which is like, I found these like 43 chairs that like usually in theaters. So we put those in there. And like the walls are made out of like mirror and concrete cement, you know? And we just kind of made it to fit this geodesic dome that's set in the middle of it. And then Erin made these like stethoscopes that are like kind of like harnesses, you know? So we just made like red velvet, what do we call it, like fabric around, kind of like how the medallions are around your neck. And basically you can sit in the seats and like hear your own heartbeat through the speakers, you know? Or like your own heartbeat if you put the headphones on. And then if you take the headphones off, you can hear the heartbeat of others in yours through these like speakers that are on the outside. So it's like very loud, kind of like underwater feeling. And this is like people experiencing it. So it's like a great way for, I mean, me and Erin, we've done collaborations before, but nothing this crazy. So it's a good way for us to bring our practices together.
I wanted to use stethoscopes, and he wanted to use speakers.
Yeah.
And then it came together.
Yeah, it's like perfect. Yeah, that's, and I'll show you what it looks like at night. It's like all lit up. And there's like some video.
There were 3 pregnant women who heard their babies heartbeat, about their babies heartbeats.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super like special, I guess. Like I make a lot of work and Erin does too, but we never like experience like the interaction of just like people just sitting and relaxing and hearing their heart beat and like connecting with each other and like people just meditating in there. I think my dad caught somebody having sex in there. It was all over the place. Liz was there with us too.
Yeah.
And Erin, it was like
Dad
it was
went to
such an
Burning Man
experience,
on
man. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
A lot of people cried.
A lot of crowds.
They wouldn't expect that they would, they didn't think they were going to be so emotional, but tears.
Yeah, a lot of love. There's a lot of love. A lot of love. Yeah. But that was that piece. Thank you guys.
So I'll bring up the lights and maybe there might be some questions. If anybody has any questions. You don't have to wait till the lights are on.
I have a question. That art session, where in the man was it located? D Playa, or was it around 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
It was in a D Playa. It was right between, they have like a temple.
Yeah, oh, so like,
Yeah, temple of the man. Did you go?
yeah, I wrote about you guys.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, if you know that pathway in between like the temple and the man?
Yes.
It's like, exactly, and it's like right in the middle of that. It's like a medical center right there. So it's like right next to that. Yeah. In D Playa.
And because it was a grant, do you think exhausted, would you, if they offer you to do it again, would you do it? Or is there a talk to doing another art installation? Was it too much? Was it too much?
It was like, I don't know, like, I want to go back and make an art card, because those are sick, you know? And just like these cards that people made out of, I don't know, anything, so it's pretty much like sculptures on wheels that I thought was pretty sick. So I would definitely go back and make something like that, and like, I don't know, probably do it a little differently. So this was like the craziest thing I've ever done. Like, you couldn't account for like the maintenance that you have to take to like constantly restore something like that, and then also like the dust. Like, we wanted these things to be like transparent, like mirrors, right? And the second we put these mirrors down, they got covered in dust, so they were no longer mirrors, you know? So it's just like, I don't know, thinking logistically, I'll probably plan a little differently or something, or do something like a little bit less crazy.
It was the first time I've running in too.
Yeah.
Isn't really recommended.
Can I ask a question about the photos and the process of making work about, like, especially the, what are they called? Yeah, like, when those are happening, is it are you purely documenting, or what's the conversation you're having with the people, and how do you bring photography or the process into it?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's definitely both. Like, I kind of started out as like, okay, so we're setting up this image so it's just really comfortable, and they don't really have to think about like, oh, this is going to be like some kind of like an internal experience for me, but then I allow room for it to just happen naturally every time, so that's
So it's not like it's happened, like you're doing it with them and you document, but you're actually the whole thing is set up so that you can make these images, and then they have this experience while it's happening.
exactly.
That answers the question.
I have another question for you. You were talking about, I saw the meanings of the dinosaur, and I love the meaning of the pilgrims. And you talked a little bit about the donkey, but I saw throughout your later work, the donkey is a big prominent in your artwork. Did it exactly manifest when you met Logan, or was it way before that when you started seeing this donkey? Because I've seen the donkey occurring more in your work as you introduced the girl in your life.
I feel like it was like the gift that I got from the experience, because she turned out not to be my daughter, you know, which was like very hard for me. So I feel like through that experience, like the donkey to me represented like being a human again or something, like humanity or something. Like, we're not perfect, we're like, we got a lot of defaults and a lot of things about us that we, you know, just like a mess, you know? So it was me kind of being able to be a mess by being a donkey. It's just like glorifying my mess. And like how that's like actually my power is my mess, you know? So it's like a way for me to like, I don't know, I carried it on to like continue on with just like realizing that you're still human, you know? Like, I don't know, by making work and being surrounded and taken away, like, I'm always like traveling, and I feel very fortunate to be able to like doing stuff with my art in this art world, you know, and being able to like live off that. It's like a blessing. But sometimes being taken away from that, it's like you lose sight kind of where you come from. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, the life that you had before that, you know? So this like donkey kind of reminds me of like that. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still human. You know, no matter how big I get or what happens, it's like you're human. So the donkey's like a reminder for sure of that. And also like trying to figure out that was my daughter. It's like I had to move to St. Louis, you know what I mean? I had to like take myself out of my element for something that's bigger than me. You know, so that also brought me down to like, yeah, you just gotta, don't forget all this is, like while all this is happening, you're still human, you know?
I love your work, and just, my question is, because there's so much of it, and you're so generous, and you like speak about the things you put in the work, how do you deal with the people buying your work? And so there, each time I get a piece of you, do you ever take it back, or once they leave, you're done with them, or how do you?
It's been very difficult thing that I'm still kind of figuring out as I go, you know? Like lately I've been learning that like, when I'm working with a gallery or if I'm selling with someone, that like, I need to know who's buying my stuff first before buying it, you know what I mean? Instead of like randomly going out, I need to know that person, you know? So that's like a big part of it, you know? And I don't know, it's still a hard thing, you know? Like, I've thought about like, instead of selling my work, maybe I should rent it or something, you know? In spaces where people can like, you know, because I still want to share with the world. I want to like make stuff to keep to myself, you know what I mean? I kind of want to make stuff because I feel like I'm making for the purpose of sharing with others, because maybe they can empathize with just like a story or a path, you know? So like, I don't know, it's still something I'm figuring out as I kind of go. It's definitely difficult to like let stuff go, even out of my studio when I'm working. Like I work to like the end, you know? It's never can call something just done. It's like something I'm always working through, you know? And even like sometimes I show it in one space and I show it in another space. I'm like working on it again in another space just to like keep it going, you know? So yeah, it's a very difficult thing. And I don't know, like lately I've been fortunate to kind of be able to like pick and choose, like, all right, I want to keep this for myself and I won't let that go. You know what I mean? And then some works I will let go. You know? So it's, yeah, it's super hard.
I wanted to ask both of you, based off of your experiences and overcoming like adversities like an artist, if you could give yourself advice to your younger self, something that also we could take in, like what would it be?
I think it would be like, don't listen to what anyone says.
All the professors are gonna leave right now.
Just like stick to your gut and what you know about your work and what you want your work to be, and like, you know, what it's about.
Actually, I would say something similar, you know, like definitely intuition is everything. And like, there was a time, especially in grad school when we went, where it's just like, I doubted that intuition, you know, and very like, I don't know, felt weird about the things I was doing, and I felt like I should hold back. I felt like, you know, I'm doing too much, or, you know, it's like teacher always told me like, you know, this is done, you should leave. I'm like, oh, what you mean? You know, and then it kind of mess with your psyche, you know? And so yeah, definitely, I say kind of like stick to those guts, because like your gut is always right, you know, and then you always come back to that gut thing, because anything else that you do, you just like, you regret it kind of, or you like feel like it wasn't all the way right, you know? And like, I don't know, definitely like be mindful of your professors and things that people tell you, but like don't take it as true. You know what I mean? Like I feel like everything we kind of take in so much information, we're getting it for a reason. You know, and let the stuff that's kind of stick in your heart be there, and then you know the rest will fall. But listen to those.
I think it's like making from a place of action instead of reaction.
Yeah, sure. And love, like keep the love.
Keeping with that question, do you think Yale practiced the Latin via negative, where they try to push the negative so you can see the other side, like pushing yourself down? to pick yourself back up. I think that was a good way that they model it. I noticed the via negative.
I feel like somewhat, I feel like it's like a boot camp, you know? And it's good to be, I wish I was like more mindful that it was gonna be more like a boot camp than taking everything so personal. You know what I mean? So I'm mindful of that. I feel like they do try to criticize you so you can deal with some stuff. Because like after I graduated, I appreciate it so much more, you know, because I've been dealing with this art world and this other stuff that like people are constantly doing that. So it's like, dang, that was familiar. That felt like when I was in school, you know what I mean? So I also feel like it's a missed opportunity because sometimes you don't need to fight against something, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need this, like somebody to teach you how to deal with BS. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't need to deal with BS because maybe you won't surround yourself by BS. You know what I mean? So I feel like somewhat of a missed opportunity, but I do appreciate it. Like it was a good place to like do some great professors and friends through that process that I feel more grateful for, you know? And I feel like the setup is definitely for like almost like tough love, you know, in a sense.
I don't think it's the best method. I don't think it's the best method. I think it can be effective.
Yeah.
It's not my personal favorite.
It's experience.
For Erin, so do your subjects appreciate being in your work? Since it's not naturalized or idealized, do you ever get a negative reaction from your subjects?
From my work?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be sticking to school, mainly in school. But like when I graduated, I feel like not really, you know, like I haven't heard too much negativity, I guess. I mean, somebody did a write-up about a show of mine recently and they said these like donkey tails I made that I ended up putting up was bad, you know? So,
It doesn't really matter, you know?
exactly, yeah. It's like, it don't really matter that much and I don't know, like besides that, not really, you know, like I feel like you kind of get what you give, you know, in a sense, and I know like I give a lot of love in my work, like you said, I'm super generous with that work, so like, I don't know, I realized like, a lot of situations you just get what you give, you know, you put a lot of love in it, and I try to make work that people can't criticize, you know, I feel like that was the beauty of going to school there, so many people criticizing you, it's like, all right, I still, even the haters or the people that are bringing you down, I still want to communicate to those people and like, uplift them too, you know what I mean? So like I try to put a lot and be naked in my work, just be very vulnerable. And I feel like in a way when you do that, like it's hard for people to kind of bring any negativity to it, to be honest, you know. I'm sure people probably behind my back said some stuff, but to my face I haven't experienced a lot of like, you know, negativity.
So, Erin Desmond, this is like Erin, Miss Erin. You talked a little bit about the practice that you do, the sort of healing trauma through the somatic. I have to look through my notes to get the terminology right, and how art is also a healing practice. And so I wanted to know if you could just talk a little bit about where they're touching and what is your process by which you're kind of letting them kind of inform each other. And then Erin Fowler, I wanted you to talk a little bit about, it seems to me that your art is a healing process for yourself. And have you been finding, like in the collaboration, it clearly was a healing mechanism and an aesthetic and mind-blowing, amazing installation that you collaborated on. But can you talk a little bit about healing in your work for you, but then also for others that get to experience it? So you could just address art and healing, both of you.
Yeah, so I think like anytime there's a renegotiation.
Yeah, you said that before. What do you mean by renegotiation?
Yeah. So like a shift or a change or an increased movement, or increased like flow or expansion. Because it's like blockage and like sameness and stuckness that causes trauma, that causes physical disease, that causes problems in society. So anytime I can create a shift from like some kind of like blockage or constriction towards expansion, I think that's healing, and that's what I want my work to do. And yeah, I think like if I make something that's really kind of like challenging for me, I think that normally translates to if I'm like being vulnerable in some way. And vulnerability is really kind of like an entry point, I think, for that movement or change to happen. So definitely like setting it up with vulnerability, and then setting up whatever like parameters so that like a shift can happen. Maybe within the performers, maybe within the spectators, or maybe it's like maybe it's just like a bodily internal thing. If you're looking at a physical piece of art and you feel something in your own body, or it makes your mind go to these places. So I think it can happen.
And I don't know, I've been learning a lot actually from being with Erin, just like about the healing process, you know, and like, I don't know, I feel like it's something that I've always been like interested in, you know, and like something where, I don't know, I want to empower others for sure, you know, but just being with Erin, like trying to bring, I don't know, outside people into my art, or like let it be more than just about myself, you know. I've been learning just like, for instance, like my cousin that said I make a big piece about that makes music, you know. Like I've been learning that when I present my work, I can create platforms for others, you know. So like my cousin, I ended up bringing him out to the show, and he was able to perform his music in front of all these people, you know. And I realized how like he was like literally empowered, you know, not just from a piece, but being able to actually like perform in front of that piece and from others, and like get out of St. Louis and come to New York and have this like experience like a superstar for a second. You know what I mean? It felt really good, and I felt like it was like a good point of like healing him in a way, because now he felt like got all this extra energy, like I can do whatever now, you know? So I'm realizing even like when I did that performance with Lex that I showed a little snippet of, it was like, you know, I was provided this opportunity and very fortunate to do that, but then like I'm presenting something that I made of her that she inspired me to make. So it's like, all right, well, I feel like it's a good way for me to actually create a platform for her, you know, so she can share her gifts with the world too, you know? So I'm finding like very powerful to kind of make things in a sense that could also like bring people up as well, you know? And then like that Burning Man experience, like making that with Erin, like was something I still haven't been able to like even reflect on and digest. But it's something I'm very interested in, like creating these spaces now that people can actually be interactive in, and like come in and just like have some kind of real experience, more so than like you showing objects in a space. You know, I'm trying to figure out ways that I can make people interact a little bit more. So it's definitely like encouraged me to do that. Yeah.
Well, it's late, and you guys are awesome. And thank you so much.